Did you know that the federal minimum wage has been raised 22 times ever since it was first introduced in 1938? The most recent update to the federal minimum wage was made in 2009, and it was raised to $7.25. Currently, the United States right now, there is 29 states, including the District of Columbia, that have a higher minimum wage than the United States federal minimum wage. My name is Dennis Herrera, and I am going to tell you why the minimum wage should be increased. In 2019, we're going to mark a decade ever since the last minimum wage was updated. According to the report from the National Employment Law Project and low-paying industries such as retail and fast food accounted for 22% of the jobs that were lost in the Great Recession. They've they've generated 44% of the jobs since. Last February, in Congressional Budget Office estimated that increasing the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour from $7.25 would lift 900,000 people out of poverty. The minimum wage was the minimum wage of $7.25 is just not cutting it nowadays. That especially in high-priced cities, most minimum wage workers aren't teenagers these days. They are major breadwinners who need a higher pay and who need to keep their family out of poverty. Many families who its providers are low wage workers struggle living paycheck to paycheck while juggling work, childcare, and transportation and their family's well-being. What causes us to still have the same minimum wage as we did in 2008 is fear. Fear is the unknown. Fear of the unknown future causes most of us not to want an increase in the minimum wage. People fear that increasing the minimum wage will force businesses to lay off employees, which will raise unemployment levels. Dr. George Reisman states that the higher wages are, the higher prices are. And if the higher prices are, the smaller the quantities of goods and services demanded and the number of workers employed in producing them. Another con that causes us to fear a higher minimum wage is that smaller business owners will be affected by raising the minimum wage. Janie Richardson, vice president of the fast food chain and White Castle vice president, said that company would be forced to close almost half of its stores and let go thousands of workers if the federal minimum wage were to be raised by to $15. Another fallback that is keeping us from updating the federal minimum wage is that teenagers and young adults will be shut off the workforce if the minimum wage were to be increased. According to the information provided by Pew Research Center, it states that 16 to 24-year-olds make up 50.4% of the minimum wage earners. Despite that, they only represent 13.7% of the workforce as a whole. Out of the 50.4% of the minimum wage workers, 24 of them are teenagers. Dr. Matthew Russo wrote that increasing the minimum wage will actually hurt teenagers and have a devastating impact on workforce because firms and companies will hardly pay many young workers with no skills or experience. To back this claim up, Dr. Mulligan stated that the teenage workforce fell sharply after the minimum wage increase in July 2009, and it was a fall of 8% in the term of 3 months, while the previous drop of 8% took over a year. That suggested that in 2009, minimum wage increase of July 2009 did in fact reduce teenage employment. These causes are holding us back from moving forward to a higher minimum wage. A solution to this problem will be having people who are minimum wage could be offered two options. These options would be either to have a $7.25 salary and have healthcare benefits included. The second option being that people could choose to have a $15 minimum wage and have health insurance. This second option would solve the issue of those providing for their family and giving them more room to wiggle in their budget. The first solution would just be a commodity to teenagers. A local solution would be the small business that needs to adapt to the $15 minimum wage and after healthcare to their and offer healthcare to their employees. Have estimated will be given an estimate of 5 years to comply with the federal minimum wage. This gives them time to adapt. Like in the federal minimum wage laws and personal solutions to this, and a personal solution to this problem, or what can I do to this about this is I could get an experience as well education requirements to apply and get a job where they pay minimum wage, where they don't pay minimum wage, and therefore I don't have to struggle economically. In conclusion, we should raise our minimum wage to help those 26.4% of the workers who aren't teenagers and are providers to their families. Their families who struggle financially and who live paycheck to paycheck. The impact of raising the minimum wage will not only benefit the workers but also help get 900,000 people out of poverty. The question is, are you going to help take action and be in favor of raising our federal minimum wage?